Hello, everyone. I hope everyone has celebrated Mother's Day in their own way. Um, I want to wish all the mothers a happy Mother's Day and all the grandmothers and mother in laws and uh, people that are celebrating today. Okay, I'm having a slight issue making sure this is pinned to everywhere. So, this week, as you know, it is Mother's Day. Lissy Lou crocheted this. My little girl is a little artist. I think that she knows that I can't keep plants alive. The one that you see up behind me has been kept alive since my birthday in January, and that's thanks to Alyssa keeping it alive. I'm so thankful for having Alyssa. She just amazing. Um, so that's what it's been like at my house. She made me breakfast, cleaned the house. It was pretty amazing. Making little presents. It's adorable. Okay, so um, I hope everyone had an excellent week. So we're going to talk a lot. So on tonight's show, um, we're going to talk about the budget. We're also going to talk about the right-wing response to the budget. So I'm going to outline what it basically has. Oh yeah, and if you're wondering about the glasses, apparently now I need reading glasses, and reading is a little bit more difficult without them. So when I'm reading, they've got to be on. Okay, housing humiliates the LNP. Their Mr. No strategy is not going as well over with the public. A Morrison messy contract. Turns out Scott Morrison had a contract that I don't know. You would think that there are plenty of places where he could pick up a contract and just not do things dodgy, but here we are. More an update on MORIA deeming. Equality being non-negotiable. Question time that went badly for the Liberals. The Voice's wording has been endorsed. The Liberal minority, hold on, that has to go. I've just realized. And Donald Trump has been found guilty, but not on everything. So we're going to talk about that and more. I hope everyone enjoys the show either live or watches this later. Like, share, and subscribe, and I hope you have a wonderful evening. Okay, first up, the budget. See, now this is something that I have made. Side of my ear. What it is designed to do. Now, what exactly are we looking at here? We're looking at government white paper. Now, what it will end up doing is the government addressed several things here. Now, it still does need to be passed, but this will deal with climate change, household energy upgrades. It'll help small businesses, daycare, aged care, housing, hospital funding, Medicare. There is a whole slew of things within this budget that I was able to obtain. While it doesn't overwhelmingly do everything that's needed, what budget does? Can you ever point to a budget and then say, no, everyone's thrilled with that? No budget is ever going to come across perfect. So this idea that you're assailing to this perfect budget, someone is always going to be crying off on that note. Do keep in mind that there is a review going into job seeker and all that kind of stuff. And the Bill Shorten has made several comments in regards to that, saying that he doesn't think that it'll stay as it is now. Now, Anthony Albanese can't say too much publicly yet until this review is done. But I find it rather interesting that we're still having this echo chamber of a debate about where it should sit, because on the left we say, no, it absolutely has to go up. But the right wing is always like, and the thing is, it's done in two separate parts, and like the two can't be realistic. And I'll show you what I mean. Here's how the right wing are handling it. Handling the very same well-reasoned, well-organized budget. So when I'm saying to you that the two sides can't meet, this is exactly where the problem lies. You have, why isn't there? You have stuff like this that's just popping up. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, are you for real? Are you for real? So apparently daycare workers and nursing home workers and Medicare funding is all for some person on Centrelink. And you got to think that the Centrelink measures weren't huge. They were incremental, measured, and well planned. And even that, if you ask anyone on the left, it's never going to quite meet that mark. But on the right, that they've got this idea that somehow it's way too much and it's extreme. But this comes from the same woman that told people lies on what the carbon emissions trading scheme was. She called it a tax. It clearly was not a tax. And she knew that she was having a very dishonest debate about the whole thing. But she got to set the narrative. Well, Peter Credlin, I'm glad that you no longer get to set the narrative. This is not that. And I'm overwhelmingly frustrated that we're still having this type of talk, because it's not like anything built on reality. The right wing live in this never ever part of how the budget works. But then you've got the interesting part of the Greens. The Greens are helping the Liberals to block housing. Yeah, you heard that right. They're blocking housing. This is why we can't have nice things. They frustrate me to no end. And it's not as if you actively go around and you go, oh, well, you know, I didn't expect them to do that. Nobody did. Everyone thought, hey, they've been screaming about homelessness and everything for ages. Of course they're going to be like, we're going to do something about housing. It gets to the House and the Senate, and the Greens help the Liberals to vote no. No, I am done. You show me where environmentally it is easier to keep people homeless. They are done. They are done. They can no longer say that they are social, progressive, anything by keeping people homeless. They are done for me. Cooked chicken. I'm done debating about how righteous they want to be. They had an opportunity here to be better. And yes, I'm harder on the left because they've at least got the intellect to know better. The people that vote for Conservatives are generally less informed. The left at least have the gathering of information. By and large, we spend a lot of time vetting what we know. So for anyone on the left who's like, I don't know why you're going out, because you know better. So if you're going to sit there in your weird little echo chamber defending how the Greens can reject housing of all things, remember, I see you, and that's dishonest. We want housing. That's just fundamentally a right. So in saying that, what have we got up next? Housing. So question time has been going on. And through the week, the LNP have made this disingenuous link between immigration and housing. Now, given that the LNP had a plan to bring in more immigrants under them, I think that not only is this dishonest from the start, knowing that they already knew that they were going to do that, but then attack Labor for an immigration policy. Worse, attacking immigrants again. They do not learn. This is typical of how the Conservatives operate. The dishonesty is beyond the pale. I would like an opposition that actually had something that they could really oppose in good faith. That's what I was looking for. I was looking for the kind of real stable geniuses that they claim to have been, because it would have been helpful, just a smidgen, for them to be a little bit genuine about this stuff. But here we are again, dealing with the Liberals trying to attack housing and using immigrants to do it. Nah, they didn't touch investment properties. They didn't touch that. They've already said no to the housing bill. No, none of that. They didn't say that they sold all the housing, social housing. No, none of that. They were the perpetrators of this issue. Now they're going to stand there and pretend like they've got their shit together. No, it's not going to happen. You can't be serious with it. It's so wrong. We all know better. You know, it's time that we had an honest discussion about where things are. And I won't be playing nice with it anymore. So take a listen to this from Question Time. Okay.
The Minister will pause.
They're going to regret this.
The member for Spence will cease ejecting. I'll hear from the member for Wannon.
This goes to relevance. It was about the link between immigration being high and your lack of housing supply. And I'd like the Minister to go back to that point, please.
Order. I want to be able to hear the Minister to make sure she's being relevant to the question regarding immigration and the pressures on housing. I'm going to ask her to return to the question.
Speaker, I mean, the Housing Australia Future Fund, we're talking about additional housing here in Australia. We're talking about 30,000 social and affordable rental homes that we want to get on the ground as soon as possible, that you are saying no to. You voted no in this House. You're saying no in the Senate to it. I mean, seriously. We've got
the Leader of the Opposition. The Leader of the Opposition will cease ejecting. So will the member for Broome.
Fleeing family violence and older women at risk of homelessness.
Leader of the Opposition.
Some of that housing is for veterans who are at risk of homelessness. And you are saying no when we want to put more houses on the ground. After a decade of little action, we are trying to turn this around. We've invested $575 million immediately. We had the housing accord in our first budget. We've got a bill in the Senate that you're blocking.
The Leader of the Nationals.
More measures in the budget just 2 days ago for build to rent. Another additional $2 billion for Housing Australia to do more social and affordable housing. We continue to invest in housing. We've got homes on the ground today that you don't support, and we want to do more with the Housing Australia Future Fund. Instead, we've got you with the Greens forming this coalition of no homes. You don't want any homes on the ground when it comes to social and affordable housing. Seriously, you need to actually get your senators in the Senate to support this bill and allow us to bring on the debate and to have a vote. If you're serious about what's going on when it comes to housing, if you're serious about those Australians doing it tough, you would support the bill in the Senate.
And that's the point to this, isn't it? This is by design. They deliberately are being misleading. And I can't. This is just another nail in the coffin for the Greens for me. I just cannot understand how they can get any votes at all. To be part of helping the LNP. How dare they say that they're any part of the left and the progressive? Have a way with it. My God. It's utterly repugnant for them to pretend like they're on some sort of high horse. I'm watching that showed me that 4,000 homes for domestic violence victims. That would be incredible. That has been a major sticking point. Over 55 women are also experiencing the housing crisis in a century. Those are the sorts of figures that we can't underpin enough. You can never ever solve the problem. I think housing will always be a problem. I don't think you can build enough houses to house everybody. But this strikes a better deal in what will already be a complicated amount of budgeting. So for the LNP and the Greens, look, if you really, really want to be decent human beings, do the right thing. But of course, we knew what the Liberals were. The Greens, oh my God, just when you think that you couldn't get worse from repealing the carbon emissions trading scheme because you gave people the false idea that somehow you could improve. No, you knew what you were doing, and you know what you're doing with this. It's now you're playing a game of semantics. I think it's disgusting. I truly do. And I hope that your voters punish you for that, because it's exactly what you deserve. While there is a housing crisis going on, oh my God, there is something wrong with you. Okay. So it turns out there were some dodgy contracts written into federal white paper. Scott Morrison had obtained some social media advertising through COVID-19 measures from a company that is linked to adult affairs. Now, and into tax havens and the weird contracts within. Yeah, this whole thing gets a little bit weird quickly. A company that makes podcasts discussing explicit sex acts and interviewing porn stars won a $382,000 contract. Yeah, this is the same people who did the prayer room. You know that prayer room where you're actually meant to use to pray and not actually hire prostitutes to go into? That kind of thing. You know, be decent human beings. Don't do that crap at work. It's amazing what they've done. Okay. The contract details a published report among the other taxpayer-funded deals revealed, including a regulator in charge of Australia's financial stability pays contracts to companies based in tax havens. Our competition watchdog spends more than $100 million on temporary staff. So it means no one actually was going to be an overall job winner. The agency overseeing all of our digital media spent $132,000 on white page listing. The federal budget will reveal $650 billion spending for the coming year. Contracts in previous years include $382,000 for social media moderation to a Gold Coast company that also makes raunchy podcasts. Economists want better evaluation of big budget government projects to make sure that they're achieving goals set for them. Basic KPI, key product indicators. It's really simple to do. Most businesses know how to do that. I myself have set KPIs for businesses I run. So it's not a difficult thing to do. Okay. So this is par for the course where it comes to Scott Morrison. He did this sort of stuff. It becomes all of this thing, like you had this Governor General weird charity where he got awarded this 18 million, and apparently he didn't end up getting his hands on it. And you got the Great Barrier Reef Fund, and there's loads and loads of things like that. That company didn't even know what to do with that money. They had no experience in dealing with the Great Barrier Reef Fund. We've got to claw that back somehow. So we can chalk this down to another one of what did they do and why. So there's that. Okay, so next one we're going to discuss is John Prosciutto. So it turns out that he's not making many friends. The word exiled is being thrown around, and that's just not helpful to the Liberal Party. While you're watching the disarray of a party, you tend to think that, you know, it can't get much worse. You always think that the destruction of something like this, it was always bound to happen. You can't have extreme hate on one end and then at the other, a reasonable talking point. The two shall not meet. It's not compatible for the nation. So let's have a look at what happened. Okay. Victorian Liberal leader John Prosciutto hopes a day off from the MORIA deeming saga have been dashed as an attempt to shift attention as stamp duty veered back to the controversial MP. The opposition leader was in the former opposition leader, I think he was former now, in Frankston, calling for the removal of the stamp duty for first homes valued up to $1 million, where he was quizzed about Miss Deeming's expulsion from the Liberal Party and threats of legal action. Now, keep in mind, Miss Deeming did say that she would sue through the week, and then later went with, well, no, I never said that I was going to do that, and then it went with, well, maybe I should. So she's a little bit topsy-turvy on what she wanted to do, but it hasn't worked out for anyone well, this whole saga. So there were like factions within the Liberal Party, and it was amazing to watch. You had this extreme side that was like, we really should keep her. She's a really good asset to the party because she brings the crazy nutters that believe in the stuff she does. So there is like this weird cult-based thing that goes on with these extreme people that they want to tap into. But then you've got the other side that's like, dude, if we go to election with this, we're going to get slaughtered. So the two sides were just warring. So what ended up happening is this mouse work. We were totally focused on the state budget coming up and holding government to account. Mr. Prosciutto said, however, whatever happens in relation to Miss Deeming, that's a matter for her. She later served as a Liberal leader with the defamation concerns notice demanding the issue of media statement exonerating her of being a Nazi or a Nazi sympathizer. See, when you go around and you're like openly shaking hand with Nazis, it's not going to go well. Like, just a pro tip, don't go to a hateful rally. If you want to remain in office, it's probably not the wisest move. Miss Deeming should have learnt that lesson. This isn't even the first time that she attended such things. But she was like, nothing too much happened at the first one. They were a little bit ignorant of my attendance. I'm going to go to another one. Yeah? Okay, how'd that one work out for you? And the thing is, this caught up Mr. Prosciutto's career in it as well, because now they've exiled him as a result. It's an interesting cataclysmic moment to watch. You're sort of watching the death and destruction of a party that was so intent on just riddled with misinformation. But then have a look at this side of it. So when we're done with that, check this one out. So this is where it gets a smidgen more interesting. Let's get to the part where they expelled Moria Deeming, right, after the stoush with the leader, right? So we get to that point, and then we're like, no, it can't get much worse. It's really played its own hand out here. They've done the vote. It's bad. And they're like, no, we're going to sue now. And then we're not going to sue now. So watch this.
Today, a strong turning point for the state parliamentary party.
Now, I'm not a forensics person or anything, but does he look like he's going to cry or had been crying? That's what makes it. They know full well what this is. When you take a look at the politics of this, they thought they were on the safe side of this. It's difficult to explain to people how the right wing actually operates. They kind of need to tip their hats into several different baskets. Otherwise, they're not electable. And to me, they're not electable at all. But for them to get their broad church that they keep, inspiring from John Howard, they need to go into like little factions, the extreme crazy, the I'm a little bit crazy, but I can't help it. And then they got the I just want to keep lying to you and you're going to accept that part. And then there's the other part that's like, I'm very rich and I have to vote Liberal. That's what that is. That's the different factions of the Liberal Party. And what John was attempting to do was sever the part of the extremism of the party. Now, if you ask me, the whole thing is extreme. But John didn't see it like that because he's in the faction that's like, no, someone has to be reasonable. Now, it's clear the man's been crying. It's not even like a little bit sad. He's been actively crying. And it's really weighed on him, this whole debacle of Moria. And he was having like this internal struggle with how to deal with it. Because this broad church that they've so lovingly adapted to this idea has not panned out too well. I think the you could see it in like the John Howard era, just before everything sort of went to explosive levels and people were starting to go online for their news, which was, weirdly around that time when everyone was like, this is where I get it from. When we look back at those leaders, we were definitely fed a narrative that's not built in any reality. Like if we had about access to this kind of technology back then, I do not think John Howard would have been successful in anything that he did, particularly in GST talk. So let's take a look at this.
And I know reform is tough and it's hard, and I'm leading that process, and it will take some time, but I'm very pleased with the outcome that we were able to achieve as a team today. I'm very comfortable with the level of support I had today, and my colleagues were able to secure with the motion they brought. As you say, there were 19 votes in favour and 11 against, but that's a strong endorsement of a process that was very difficult. It was very challenging. And remember, when any party has to deal with any kind of question of expulsion or suspension, it's not easy for members, and people can fall on either side of a line. But here, as a team, we understood how important it was to make a strong stand, and the party room did that. This is not a decision that any political party will ever take lightly. It's not the first time a political party will do this, and it's certainly not going to be the last, I assume. I certainly want this to be the last time we invoke our disciplinary procedures under the parliamentary party constitution. We appreciate that Moria was elected on a Liberal ticket, but we've also got a responsibility to the broader Victorian people, including the people of Western Metropolitan Region, to be an inclusive and welcoming party that can accommodate conservative and more progressive viewpoints, but do it in a way where you're contributing to the team and being part of the team.
You know what I hear when I hear him say that? I swear I'll be reasonable. This is me being reasonable. Me kicking her out does exactly that. Now here's the problem with that. You knew who she was way before the ticket and the pre-selection even came about. Hell, vet her Facebook for 5 minutes. She was hateful from the jump. Now the Pied Piper needs to be paid. Your party paid a major price for hate. This country is not like Florida. It's never going to have that same effect. So it's disingenuous, to say the least, to say, well, we didn't really know. Come on, I vetted her in less than 5 minutes, long before pre-selection. We were saying long before pre-selection, don't put her in. That's a terrible idea. And they're like, what could possibly go wrong? Bum bum. It went horribly, and it just didn't need to. But now that she's sitting on the crossbench, I think that this gives them room to pretend like they've kicked her out. I think they've done a deal with her, but they've also made their party look like an absolute shit show, which is just another moment where they've just horribly mucked it up. Okay, so when you threatened to sue your own party too, what did you think was going to happen? That they were just going to skip merrily down the road and all this was going to go great? But I have a different Liberal Party fallout for you later on in the show. And I'm going to show you just how much. This isn't like, you can almost jump from state to state to watch how quickly it's dissolving into the shit show that you're seeing. It's an awful thing if they were a real opposition. But they're not. These people are just horrible. Okay. So here we are. We're going to go back to the state of Victoria. This is why I do things like this. So as we were just discussing Victoria and its issues, here's another one. The hate and vitriol that has sparked from Victoria, everything from the Monash storybook time to neo-Nazi rallies that Moria Deeming attended, to transgender hate and gay hate slogans that I have viewed, it is repugnant. Now, this is a state that is largely progressive, but you've got a little hot box going on with people like Avi Yemeni running around telling people about how persecuted they all are. And the right are always the victims in every scenario. But really, what the truth is that's their way of projecting, as they're making actual victims of transgender and gay community people. Unbelievable that they do this. Okay, so listen to this speech in Victoria on that. Natalie Hutchins touches on just that. 15 seconds, enjoy.
Because equality is not negotiable here in Victoria, Speaker. And the rights of trans Victorians is not negotiable here in Victoria. As Minister for Women, I proudly stand up for all women. That includes trans women. Because equality is not negotiable here in Victoria, Speaker. And the right...
Okay, so the right to be who you are should be a given. But you've got the extremists playing a deadly game. And this ends badly for a lot of people in those communities that the right are actively targeting. I'm glad that Dean Andrews is taking steps to legislate around that kind of hate. We're not done. So now that we've discussed where that is, where do you want us to be? Do you want us to be the kind of country that copies the USA and just be hateful? Or do you want to make sure that we're better than that? Because it never got the Yanks any good. I want to be better than that. We have an opportunity here to really fix this shit show. And we have to stamp on it and make sure it's not able to come around, swing it around, and making life hard for people. Okay. Next, we're going to talk about color-coded spreadsheets. If everyone remembers the sports frauds, let me just give you like a small introduction as to what they did. So rather than building projects on necessity, they would see, if you will, purple-looking districts that were up for grabs, seats that they could easily justify pumping money into for infrastructure projects that weren't needed to win a seat. The Liberal Party did that. Now they're going to regret how they talk about infrastructure. Take a look at this. When Murray Watt responds to that very question. Now, what I found interesting here is a slam dunk of the whole thing. Like, I want to tell you, the left does this in such a smashing way. Oh, I need to take a cutout time next week to talk about what's happening in England. That's going to come up next week because I believe that they're at the polls today or yesterday. I know that it was, yeah. And they could lose up to 1,000 seats. So this isn't just here. There is a nation, worldwide almost, revolt of this extremist kind of tally up. Okay, so here we go.
The Melbourne Suburban Rail Loop also have a scathing Auditor General's report.
And thank you, Senator McKenzie. It's not.
That's Bridget McKenzie making an ass of herself as something that's just quite comically done over the years. These fake things that they do and pretend like they're outraged about something. Here's Murray Watt responding to
Nice
that.
to get a question from the National Party. We're still waiting for one about agriculture, but one day they'll get there. And it is important that we ensure.
The reason why that's important, because the National Party has prided itself apparently on being for farmers without actually doing fuck all for farmers. That's basically why Murray Watt pointed out like that.
That the Commonwealth Government's infrastructure program can actually be delivered, can actually be funded, that there are the skills available to build these projects. That, of course, was something that the former government never had any concern about because the coalition, all the coalition ever used to do was get out the colour-coded spreadsheets, work out which seats they needed to put some projects into and off to the races. Off we go. We'll go out there and make some commitments. We won't worry about whether we can pay for them. We won't worry about whether there's the tradies to build them. All we'll do is go out and make an announcement. We'll trick people into thinking they're going to get a big road and we'll never actually get around to delivering it. So this is exact. And, you know, I note Senator McKenzie has something to say about Auditor General reports. I would have thought she might be wanting to stay away from that. But, you know, we're all happy to talk about Auditor General reports that happened about the former government, including Senator McKenzie, whether it be sports programs, infrastructure programs. But the reality is the infrastructure program that we inherited from the former government had blown out from around
Look at how quick she jumped up. That was like a little tickle. No, have a look at me. I need to show you. That's how quick. Let's go back. Let's go back. Look at how quick she was. She's off. Damn. Okay. Let's go back a smidgen. Look. Sitting. I'm tolerating this too.
McKenzie, whether it be sports programs, infrastructure programs. The reality is the infrastructure program that we inherited from the former government had blown out from around 150 projects, nationally significant projects, to over 800 projects which could not be delivered, that were never funded, that never had a plan to be delivered because they were all about making an announcement.
Thank you, Minister Watt.
Who requested the $10 billion Melbourne Airport Rail Link project be
Now, see, and then she takes another bite. You would think, hey, he's humiliated me once. I should stop now. I've already had to jump up and feign ignorance on relevance to the last question. Why would I do that again with a bird's nest of a hairdo just to go with it? I mean, my God, Bridget. Seriously, I have bad hair today too. It's been raining around where we are. But, my God, Bridget. Why would you put yourself through this twice? Humiliating yourself once was funny. Doing it twice and people might actually start feeling sorry for you. Second bite of the apple.
infrastructure review? Was it the Minister, the Prime Minister, or the Victorian State Labor President? Premier.
Thank you, Senator McKenzie. Minister.
Well, we know that Senator McKenzie and a number of her colleagues have a bit of an obsession with the Victorian Premier. and that for years now they have traduced his reputation.
Come on. You get that. I need to point this out. Penny Wong's face. She already knows Senator Watts is going to smash her with reality. I do not know why they rock up for this. The Liberals are asking disingenuous questions. Penny Wong is openly laughing at her face. This is like a little comedy sketch for the ALP. I don't know why we're not using this in advertisements. It is just that funny. I mean, she can barely contain herself. You wonder why I'm overexcited. Look at her face. And that's live. She knows millions are going to see that. That is incredible to watch. Penny Wong is just funny.
And that for years now they have traduced his reputation in this chamber with the hope of winning seats in Victoria, but all they ever actually do is go backwards. I know this might be hard for Senator Mackenzie and the National Party to understand, but the Labor Party doesn't operate in a way where our party presidents dictate what happens in infrastructure programs. I mean, I know that's what happens in the National Party and the Liberal Party, that you get the faceless men out there, you know, coming in and telling you what to do and fund this project and fund that project.
See, you know, this is the thing with the left. They're way too intelligent for this kind of ad hoc attacks that they do. This will blow up every time. They were doing this long before the election. But now that they're in government, oh my God, the victory is so much sweeter. It is almost as if we're watching the French kiss of 5 and 5 of Tony Burke's. Whenever you look at these, you're always like, how much more humiliated can they get? And then they go and surprise me and go one more further. It is amazing to watch. Okay. So it turns out that the voice, the wording of it will not be altered, despite Tony Abbott's repeated calls to do just that. Now, he went with the no vote because, of course, he did. The same guy who walked out on the national apology, the same guy who thinks that actually being a decent human being and tells women that the carbon emissions trading scheme being repealed is better for women because they iron. Oh, yeah, you can't shirt front this one, Tony Abbott. And no, I don't want you to see you eating another onion live on air. Here's the thing, and I don't want you to have one of your 30-second nodding of the head when you're asked a genuine question in freeze fright. Now, here's the deal. Tony Abbott went in there, disingenuous as he is, to the Senate hearing in relation to this. And they were like, we're not having any part of it. You are being disingenuous with your questions. I don't think that's right. And he was largely ignored. And because they're not controlling anything anymore, they are just the pure coalition. Labor have a right. They really do. And they've struck the right balance in this. If you are unhappy at any point, remember, they are gone. Scott Morrison is gone. The toxic Liberals are gone. They no longer control the budget white paper. That is something to celebrate. If we get this right and we get the Greens right on board, which they should be, we can have better housing, childcare payments, nursing home payments, Medicare payments, all of it fixed. All of that stuff that they promised can be delivered. We just need the Greens to actually act like they give a shit about real people. That's a good way to make me angry, is discussing how stupid they were. Okay, so this next one, it brings me another part of great delight. Now we're going to go to the lovely state of Tasmania. No, we're not going to talk about the weird subs thing that they did. Well, we are, but not for the reason you think. Turns out the Liberal Party in Tasmania, the final remaining state that is a Liberal, is in a minority government. Now that's already an interesting point. But to have it not only thrown up as, well, I didn't see that coming, to, oh my God, why are they doing that? Now, Liberal Party does not have a conscience. Turns out, two apparently grew one over the stadium and an interconnecting power loop. But there's more to it, I dare say. But take a listen to this as we get into it. Lara Alexander from the seat of Bass and John Tucker from the seat of Lyons in Tasmania have decided to become part of the crossbench, but they've come armed with threats. Now, what does that mean? It means that they are literally holding the Liberal government hostage over a piece of infrastructure. Now, when I kept telling you people, Labor doesn't introduce these things on a state level. The state government does, and then they go, oh, that's where that's going to go, and this is what it's going to be. And then the federal government goes, we have to pay for half that, don't we? And they're like, yep, that's how it works. I don't know how I need to simplify this. So attacking Labor over this subs thing was another dumb thing people did. Not subs, stadium. Okay. The subs thing, I kind of get. It was stupid. I don't think that they're ever going to be useful, but there's something with the US that's dodgy there too. Okay. Here we go.
Out of step with the Liberals and taking a stand on their own.
We're here today because we're going to become independents and we are leaving the Liberal Party.
The members for Bass and Lyons are calling it quits over two big ticket items, the costs and lack of transparency around a new AFL stadium in Hobart and the proposed interstate power connector.
There are questions to be answered and people deserve to have an answer.
The defection plunges the Liberals into minority, meaning the government has lost effective control of Parliament.
I'm very disappointed today. I'm sure you would understand that this is a very disappointing day for me. I've been let down by colleagues that were elected. Liberals.
Lara, can you step out this way just a little bit?
The new crossbenchers say they'll support this month's budget.
So definitely we do not want to derail the state. We do not want to create more anxiety.
We're not planning on bringing the government down. If that's what you're asking us, we're not planning on bringing the government down.
But their support for the government in the event of a no confidence vote comes with conditions.
See, when you're saying that the government has conditions that they're going to meet, this means that effectively they can bring the government down. This is just a simple, hey, maybe. I think that that's how they should have worded it, but sure.
If the Premier doesn't meet our terms, which is about the transparency with the
There's
stadium,
the threat.
and also with Marinus Link, and that means releasing the contracts or everything that's been involved, the deals with the federal government, then, yeah, we would have to reconsider our position. I'm not sure their demands have been particularly well articulated.
Oh, no, they said it clearly.
I am not going to be pushed over or pushed in a corner.
And from here, we'll continue to work with John and Lara and engage with them on those areas that they've said are important to them. They didn't have to leave the party to be able to do that.
The Premier says he's spoken to the rest of his Liberal team and is confident he has their support. He's also ruled out calling an early election. Tasmanians will next go to the polls in 2025.
I think he's doing a great job as the Premier, and there's no doubt
and
that
then you've got the typical Peter Dutton sort of terribleness that we shouldn't have to hear that. No. Okay, so our last story for the evening, we're going to talk about Donald Trump. He was not found guilty of rape, but he was of sexual misconduct. Now, what does that mean? Sexually abusing writer E. Jean Carroll. Now, this means that the overwhelming evidence of the preponderance of evidence met the criteria. Now, this is a jury of his peers. Manhattan is well known for being very right-wing. They're very rich. So this isn't as if these weren't peers in his own realm. There were several statements that went against him. For instance, there was an Access Hollywood terminology that he had a speech about how he could grab women and they just let you do it, and you could grab them on their private areas. This being said, Donald Trump has no excuses, and his recent town hall on CNN has cataclysmically blown up right in front of his face. Turns out those particular statements could be used against him as well. So Donald Trump is openly now looking at real recrimination issues. Donald Trump effectively is making sure that his 2024 ticket is dead, buried, and cremated. Already he was he's in trouble. He's looking at issues around the Georgia election, trying to steal the election in Georgia, just trying to get one more vote, one more than he actually needed, and begging to be let in. As you know, that the Georgia, well, you might not know, but in Georgia, it is a Republican-led state. That's his party. And he was trying to bend the ear of another Republican to try and get more votes than what he needed. But it's not just there. The same thing also happened in a couple of different states, and they are looking at him closer. Now, remember, this is a twice impeached, very criminal, very corrupt man that had links to the mob and numerous other things. You have to keep in mind that this is a man that was never really welcomed by New York as a whole. They sort of seen him on the fringes, and he was always trying to one-up. And his lowest base denominators seemed to be where he was at, but yet he wouldn't touch him with a 10-foot pole. Anytime he's had an opportunity to really, really converse with his people, they don't want anything to do with it. And I ultimately think that this is going to be, there's 25 other women. And I think that this is going to be one of many instances where Donald Trump and that empire is over. Conservatives have no place in this kind of space. It's a horrendous thing that they've done, and they've put themselves in this position, and we are all worse off for it. Okay, so next week we're going to discuss England. Someone remind me in the comments to do that, and I want to say that I enjoyed doing this with you. If you want me to keep doing this, please like, share, and subscribe. Make sure that you support the channel, because I can't keep doing it if it's not supported. Thank you very much. Have a lovely evening and a lovely Mother's Day. I'm going to head out now and go and see my children. Have a good evening. Bye.